Unit 9. Appeals and Revisions. Understanding map appeals and scientific disagreements. Property owners and communities sometimes disagree with flood hazard determinations shown on FEMA's flood maps. When these disagreements are based on scientific or technical data, the appeals process provides a mechanism for resolving these disputes and potentially revising the official flood maps. Appeals are most commonly filed during the comment period after preliminary flood maps are issued, but before they become effective. This 90-day comment period provides the primary opportunity for communities and property owners to provide technical data that might support map changes. Scientific and technical data that might support an appeal includes more detailed topographic information, more recent or accurate hydrologic data, more sophisticated hydraulic modeling, or evidence of physical changes to the floodplain since the original study was conducted. Successful appeals typically require professional engineering analysis and must meet FEMA's technical standards for accuracy and methodology. The data supporting an appeal must be more accurate or more recent than the data used in FEMA's original analysis. The appeals process is complex and can be expensive, often requiring detailed engineering studies and professional services. Property owners considering appeals should carefully evaluate the costs and benefits and should work with qualified professionals who understand FEMA's technical requirements. Appeals must address specific technical issues with FEMA's flood hazard determinations. They cannot be based on general disagreements with flood regulations or one-economic arguments about the impacts of flood zone designations. Letters of Map Amendment, LOMAs, Letters of Map Amendment are the most common type of map revision and are used to remove individual properties from special flood hazard areas when it can be shown that the properties are on naturally high ground and were incorrectly included in the SFHA. LOM requests must be supported by detailed topographic surveys showing that the lowest adjacent grade of the building is at or above the base flood elevation. The survey must be performed by a licensed surveyor and must meet FEMA's technical standards for accuracy. The key requirement for LOMA approval is that the property must be on naturally high ground. Properties that have been elevated through the placement of fill typically do not qualify for LOMAs, even if the fill was placed before flood maps were created. LOMA requests are submitted directly to FEMA and do not require community approval or coordination. However, it is often helpful to work with community officials who can provide guidance on the process and can help ensure that LOMA approvals are properly reflected in local records. Successful LOMA requests result in official letters from FEMA stating that the property is not in a special flood hazard area. These letters are legally binding and can be used to demonstrate that flood insurance is not required for federally backed mortgages. LOMA processing typically takes several months and may require additional information if FEMA's initial review identifies deficiencies in the submittal. Working with experienced professionals can help ensure that LOMA requests are complete and accurate. Letters of Map Revision, LOMRs. Letters of Map Revision are official amendments to effective flood insurance rate maps and are used when physical changes or improved data warrant changes to flood hazard information. LOMRs are more complex than LOMAs and typically involve changes to base flood elevations, floodplain boundaries, or floodway limits. Common reasons for LOMR requests include channel improvements, bridge or culvert installations, placement of fill with appropriate compensatory storage, correction of errors in original mapping, and availability of more accurate topographic data. LOMR requests require detailed hydraulic engineering analysis using the same methods and standards used for the original flood study. The analysis must demonstrate that the proposed changes are technically sound and will not cause adverse impacts to flood levels or flood risks. The LOMR process includes community coordination requirements because map changes can affect regulatory requirements and insurance rates for many properties. Communities must be given the opportunity to review and comment on proposed changes. LOMR requests must include as-built documentation showing that constructed improvements match the approved designs. This documentation is critical for ensuring that the map changes accurately reflect actual conditions. The LOMR process can take 6 months to a year or more, depending on the complexity of the request and the completeness of the initial submittal. Complex projects may require multiple rounds of review and revision before approval. Conditional Letters of Map Revision, CLOMRs. Conditional Letters of Map Revision provide preliminary approval for projects that will affect flood hazards before construction begins. CLOMRs give developers and communities confidence that their projects will result in map changes and that proposed development will be consistent with post-construction flood conditions. CLOMR requests must include the same detailed technical analysis required for LOMRs, including hydraulic modeling, topographic surveys, and engineering designs. The difference is that CLOMRs are based on proposed rather than completed construction. The CLOMR process includes the same community coordination requirements as LOMRs and may include public notification if the proposed changes are significant. This ensures that affected parties have input into decisions that might affect them. CLOMRs are conditional approvals that become effective only when construction is completed as approved and when final as-built documentation is submitted to FEMA. Changes to approved designs may require additional FEMA review and approval. The CLOMR process is often used for large developments where multiple building permits depend on map changes, for major infrastructure projects that will affect flood patterns, and for projects where financing depends on confirmation that post-construction conditions will be acceptable. Developers should not begin construction or sales activities based solely on CLOMR approval. While CLOMRs provide reasonable assurance that map changes will be approved, final approval depends on completing construction as approved. Physical Map Revisions, PMRRs. Physical map revisions are comprehensive updates to flood maps for entire communities or large areas within communities. These updates typically involve new flood studies with updated hydrology, hydraulic analysis, and mapping based on current conditions and improved techniques. PMRs are initiated by FEMA as part of ongoing map modernization efforts or in response to significant changes in flood risks due to development, environmental changes, or improved understanding of flood hazards. The PMR process includes extensive community coordination and public involvement. Communities have multiple opportunities to review and comment on preliminary products, and there are formal appeal and comment periods before maps become effective. PMRs often result in significant changes to flood zone boundaries, base flood elevations, and regulatory requirements. These changes can affect insurance rates, development requirements, and property values for many properties. Communities should take advantage of PMR opportunities to provide local data and expertise that can improve the accuracy of flood maps. Local knowledge of drainage problems, development patterns, and flood history can be valuable input to the map update process. The PMR process typically takes several years from initiation to final map adoption. Communities should plan for this timeline and should consider the implications of map changes for ongoing development projects and regulatory activities, working with FEMA on map issues. Successful resolution of map issues requires understanding FEMA's technical requirements and working with qualified professionals who have experience with FEMA's processes. FEMA's standards are detailed and specific, and submissions that do not meet these standards will be rejected. FEMA's regional offices maintain technical staff who can provide guidance on map revision processes and requirements. Communities and property owners should take advantage of this technical assistance, particularly for complex projects. Pre-submission meetings with FEMA staff can help identify potential issues and can save time and expense by addressing problems before formal submissions are made. These meetings are particularly valuable for complex or unusual situations. Documentation requirements for map revisions are extensive and must be complete and accurate. Missing or inadequate documentation is the most common reason for delays or rejections in the map revision process. Communities should maintain good working relationships with FEMA staff and should communicate regularly about ongoing map issues and concerns. Good communication can help prevent problems and can facilitate resolution when issues arise.